So it looks like Dustin B was the first one up. He says, if I get a penalty on the www.domain, so is the subdomain with www as the subdomain, can I delete the subdomain and redirect it to the root without passing the penalty? No, not if you're just doing a straight redirect. You can't do that. It will pass the penalty. So, or is it better to just delete www without redirecting it and installing the site on the root? Yeah, you can. I mean, you could do that because essentially, well, let me think about that. Marco, what say you? Because I know with www, a lot of the times will be, it's still treated as a subdomain, but just installing it on the root, because some people will have maybe linked to you, whatever's causing the penalty. Let's see, I've got to admit Hernan, there he is. Whatever's causing the penalty could also cause it. Remember, people, if they link to the root domain version of it, if you had your domain set up on www and they were canonicalized to each other, or they auto redirected from your root domain to the www version or whatever, then if people built links to it without www in the domain, then it's still going to be pointing links back to the root domain, even if you remove reinstall the site on the root domain, if that makes sense. So I know if you just did a redirect from the www subdomain to the root domain and then kind of pushed the installation of the site onto the root and lost the www, it would still pass the penalty. So what's the best way to go about that, Marco?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question really hard and think, okay, so how would I do this? Because I've just lost my www, and if I did any, as you said, any link building to it, because you're still going to have, it depends on the penalty, right? But you're still going to have a ton of links coming to the www, especially the way we teach it, because we use all variations of the URL
right
when we link build. So you're going to lose that. You're going to lose anyone who's still, and there are people who still type out www dot and then the address, right? There's still people who do that. Now, you are going to pass a penalty if you're 301. Yep. There's no question.
Yep.
Now, what if, right? So I'm just thinking, like, this is theory, guys. I hardly ever do this unless I test it, but this is theory, and this is something you could try. What if you set that subdomain to no index, no follow, and then have Google crawl it? Right? Go into Search Console, have Google recrawl and see that it's set to no index, no follow, and then 301 it to the non-www version, or even the HTTPS version, right? To the non-www, and then everything is redirected again to the HTTPS. You might lose the penalty with a couple of jumps and with a no index, no follow on the subdomain that's causing the problem. Now, what's the problem? I mean, how did it get penalized? How do you know that it was penalized? Was it a manual? Because a manual, if you remove whatever it is that's offending Google, you can request for reconsideration. So it all depends on what kind of penalty. Like right now, it's even hard to get a link penalty, right? Because Google just it doesn't pay attention to links that aren't relevant. Or if you're really bad and then you're sending millions of links, then you do get an unnatural link building. You could get that, but it's usually manuals that you get. So trying to think it through, you may not pass a penalty if you do a double hop. Or it might take time for it to catch back up. So you're going to have to test on this and see, but by all means, move it to the non-www. And remember that any links going to that, you'll lose it once you remove that www if it doesn't get redirected. So you're going to have to redo all of those links, especially if you have some really powerful links coming through there. That's what I would recommend trying. Again, theory. I haven't done this. I haven't ever tried it. But in theory, if Google sees that it's no index, no follow, then there's no reason for that website to be penalized anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Can you, real quick, this is more like a question. Can you redirect, I guess you could, like you could redirect a subdomain outside of the root and then back into the root?
You could.
Like,
yeah.
you know, like so as to clean it up.
You could.
Um,
I was gonna suggest, you know, something that would be a little bit more elaborate, because I've done something similar in the past, where not specifically when I've done it to an external domain and then redirected the external domain back to the domain that had the penalty, but just on a different subdomain or you know, a different subdomain entirely. But here's what I was thinking might also work. Again, this is theory, but it would be inserting Google in the middle of it, which could absolutely reduce or you know, eliminate any negative you know, link equity from coming back through. Something you might consider would be like creating a G site mirrored to what the original site was, so you have the same page structure and all of that, linked from the subdomain, redirect all of the on a page by page basis to the G site, and then from the G site you could have the pages that are built with the linking back to your root domain, right? It's a mirror of the site anyways. You could even iframe those pages into the G site pages, if that makes sense, so that you're pointing any negative link equity that's come through that might be why you've got a penalty to the G site, which we already know the G site will clean that up. It won't penalize itself. So you'd actually be passing page rank to your money site pages on the new domain, whether it's the root domain or whatever, a different subdomain, whatever, but it would be filtering through the G site. I don't know. I've never actually I've done that with an external domain before, but not with a G site. What do you think, Marco, about that?
You know, I'm really liking that, especially if you can map out your custom domain, right? The www version over to Google, so that stays, but you still have the G site underneath, right?
Right.
And that'll filter out any. This is guaranteed. That'll filter out any penalty that could have, which is, but we'd have to see what the penalty is. You don't tell us what the penalty is, then we can't really give you the advice or the answer that you need. But yeah, I mean, again, in theory, you get 301 that penalize subdomain, that www, which is a subdomain, to a G site, which links over to the root where the new site was built, and it can all be the same content, and Google won't give a shit.
That's it.
Right.
I mean, that's what I would do, because again, you're
Right.
doing you're putting an SEO shield between the penalty and your domain, right? I mean, that's what we talk about, the SEO shield. Go check it out on MGYB, and if you don't already know what we're talking about, and now you're basically doing that. You're inserting part of that shield in between the penalty and the domain. So check it out.